When our life whispers at us and invites us to an adventure, we should take it. That's what pulls me forward. This is something I've never done before. Yeah, it might be hard, but we can do hard things.
That's Elena Alexandra, a midfielder for the U.S. Women's Amputee Soccer Team, and this is Amputee Soccer Rising, the co-production of the American Amputee Soccer Association and Amplitude Magazine. This episode is brought to you by Cedars-Sinai's Limb Reconstruction Program, offering the latest advances in limb reconstruction, including osseointegration. Learn more at cedarsinai.org. I'm your host, Larry Borowski, the editor of Amplitude Magazine. If you're someone who's unsure about your athletic ability, or maybe you flat out feel awkward whenever you're in any sort of athletic setting, then you're going to want to listen to this episode. Because our guest in episode 4, Elena Alexandra, knows how you feel. Even though she has played amputee soccer at the international level, and she'll be heading to Colombia later this year to play in a World Cup soccer tournament, she's still deeply self-conscious about her physical abilities and ambivalent about whether she's even worthy of hanging out with the jocks. Alexandra could barely run at all until a few years ago when she chose below-knee amputation at age 38. She has a rare congenital bone disease called pseudoarthrosis, which severely impaired her mobility from birth. Her limb difference made her a frequent flyer in the orthopedic surgery ward, and it caused her a lot of emotional pain growing up, because whenever she tried to connect with her peers on the playground, things went about as well as you might expect.
All throughout my childhood, I wanted to be an athlete. I wanted to be a part of a team. I wanted to be able to run. I wanted to be picked for something. I wanted to be fast. And I wasn't any of those things. If I wasn't on crutches, I was super limpy and, not fast at all. I tried hard. I tried really hard. My spirit was in it. I would be as active as I could on crutches. I would run as much as I could on a pretty severe limb difference. I would still do everything I could.
Looking back on it, Alexandra believes she could have been more active and more self-confident if her medical team had recommended amputation in her childhood. When she finally made that choice for herself as an adult, it was liberating. She became more active than she'd ever been in her life. She scored a running blade, enabling her to run unaided for the first time. By the standards of lower limb amputees, she was killing it. But she didn't see herself that way. So last summer, when Alexia Mikiti, the goalie on the brand new U.S. Women's Amputee Soccer Team, invited Alexandra to join the roster for an international match in Poland, Alexandra just couldn't take the idea seriously.
I was at a Lucky Finn Project picnic. I'm literally walking away, leaving the picnic, and Alexia comes running down the field behind me and is yelling at me. And of course, I don't know her. And she's talking literally 1,000 miles a minute. I hear soccer and I hear Poland. And I'm kind of like, I'm trying to just take this all in. I get overwhelmed easily. And so I tried to slow her down and say, okay, explain to me. And she's like, I'll put you in touch with the coaches. I think you'd be a great candidate. And I'm like, Alexia, I think I'm older than you think I am. I'm 40 years old. I've never played soccer in my life. She's like, it doesn't matter. We have older people on the team, which still makes me laugh to this day. And, just talk to the coaches. Just be willing to talk to the coaches. And I said, sure. Okay. Because I hear Poland. And I'm like, literally the week before I was talking to a friend and I was saying, I really just want to travel. I want to travel the world. This has been something I've wanted ever since I was a little kid. I need to figure out how to make that happen. So I'm like, okay, but if nothing else, this is like this potentially interesting trip to Poland.
You can understand Alexandra's skepticism. She'd spent her whole life hardening her identity as a non-athlete, a person who possessed the desire and effort but lacked the physical ability. Fortunately, her 10-year-old son didn't see her that way.
I let my kid know, hey, there's this chance that I could go to Poland and play soccer. And he gets over the top excited. And he's like, we're going to buy a soccer ball right now. He's like, come on, we can buy it at Target. Let's go. So we get in the car, we go to Target, get the soccer ball. And he's like, okay, now we're going to the soccer field. I don't even know where a soccer field is. Like, this is how much I don't know the sport. So here I am in the car with my forearm crutches and my brand new Target special soccer ball, getting directed by my 11-year-old, actually 10 at that time, to a soccer field. And, I go there, take off my leg, and initially I'm going, what am I doing? I'm going to play a sport where I'm not utilizing my prosthetic that I've spent all of this time, trying to get to a place where it's comfortable and where I can function. And I get on these crutches and I take off running. And I used to run on underarm crutches as a kid. And I just felt this like rush of euphoria, like instantly. It was like flipping a switch. Immediately, all of the skill that was really little girl Elena was still there in my body. Like, I knew how to run on crutches still.
The ability to run on forearm crutches is nothing to take for granted. I'll tell you more about that in a second, but first, we want to tell you about our sponsor for this episode, Cedars-Sinai's Limb Reconstruction Program. Cedars-Sinai's Limb Reconstruction Program offers a multidisciplinary care team, including psychologists, nerve management, including targeted muscle reinnervation, and the latest advances in reconstruction, including osseointegration. Their team helps patients regain strength, agility, and confidence with personalized plans to improve mobility and manage pain. To learn more, log on at www.cedarsinai.org. That's www.cedars-sinai.org. Elena Alexandra admits that the ability to run on forearm crutches was one of the things she had going for her. It gave her an advantage over the average amputee soccer recruit. And she didn't just have any pair of forearm crutches. She had a top-of-the-line set from Side Sticks, the official crutch of U.S. amputee soccer.
I had found out that Side Sticks were the best crutches on the market. And with the help of Voc Rehab, I got a pair. My joints are not normal, and longevity of crutch use was really important to me. And so I got this pair because I had always heard that forearm crutches were better on your joints, and ended up with them kind of just sitting in my closet because they were not my go-tos. So I had these really expensive, basically the Mercedes-Benz of crutches. And I was like, okay, from that standpoint, like, I had this advantage of I already knew how to run on crutches. For me, the hard part is now adding a soccer ball into it and being able to understand how to use my body in such a way that I can kick a soccer ball or kick a soccer ball while running. And of course, there's fitness in it too, right? It's not like I was running on crutches every day. And the one thing that I think is all of us would agree on is that running on crutches takes a tremendous amount of energy.
Well, Alexandra says she had one other qualification for inclusion on the roster, a valid passport. That's about all she believed she had to offer the women's national team, crutches and travel credentials. She was pretty sure those assets would be more than negated by what she considered her total lack of useful soccer ability. But at the insistence of the national team coaches, she dutifully sent in a sizzle reel demonstrating her skills.
My son videotaped me, and I sent it as a joke to the coach because I rewatched it and I thought, oh my gosh, I am the slowest thing ever. This is like awful. There's no way I'll make the team. And the next morning I woke up to a text message from Paige saying, Elena, we're taking you with us to Poland. I still think I run incredibly slow, but apparently I have some speed.
To be fair, this isn't standard operating procedure for national team recruitment. Coaches had never seen Alexandra in person, and they wouldn't see her until the team had assembled in Poland for their first ever game. The U.S. women's team was only a few months old at the time, and they didn't have any bench players. With just weeks to go before the match against Poland, they were desperate for someone who could sub in for a few minutes here and a few minutes there without jeopardizing the team's chances. Alexandra checked the right boxes. So last September, less than 2 months after her fateful encounter with Mikiti, she found herself winging her way towards Central Europe to meet her new teammates.
I didn't get to meet them until I was really in Poland for the most part. I met a few of them, of both the men's and women's team, in the Paris airport when we were all catching a plane from Paris to Poland. And otherwise, yeah, everybody else I met when we were in Poland. So we we never played together as a full team until we met in Poland, and we had maybe 1 or 2 practices before we had a scrimmage with the Polish team and then the real game. So the scrimmage was the first time I had actually played the game of soccer ever, period.
You could hardly create a more perfect storm of factors to trigger Alexandra's deep-seated insecurities around athletics. The rest of the players had gotten to know each other during tryouts and training camps. Alexandra didn't know a soul. So even though her teammates were all fellow amputees, even though they were thrilled to have her on the roster as an extra player, setup reminded Alexandra of her difficult childhood, when she was reminded almost daily that she would never fit in. Throw in an unfamiliar country and an unfamiliar game, and it made for a pretty uncomfortable situation.
I got there, and it's like everyone knew how to do this stuff. I can remember going, I don't know how to put on the shin guard. So I'm looking around, trying to not be too obvious, but I don't know how to gear up. Everybody else has played some sort of team sport in their life. So they have this comfort with team sports. And I'm looking around and going, I'm an outsider, even though I'm playing an adaptive sport with people that are just like me. A lot of folks knew each other. They had been going to camps together, so they had broken down those boundaries and those walls. Whereas I came in Poland, and, people are probably like, what is she doing here? Who is this person? And I would have been questioning the same thing. But I know ultimately a lot of that is in my own head. So I don't fault anybody on the team. It's just that reminder. Stuff takes time. It takes time to feel a part of something. It's not instant.
Well, the trip to Poland was a big success. The U.S. team put up a credible fight, losing just 1-0 to their more experienced opponent. Alexandra fulfilled her assignment, playing multiple positions to give starting players an in-game breather. A few weeks later, back in the States, she took part in the inaugural U.S. Amputee Soccer Cup. And early this year, she got invited to Team USA's tryout camp in advance of the inaugural Women's Amputee World Cup, which takes place in November. But old habits die hard. Self-doubt crept back in, and Alexandra started cataloging all the reasons why she shouldn't go out for the team.
As a single mother, there's a huge commitment that I have to my children. And being an entrepreneur also has a huge impact. When I take time off, I am not making money. And those two things kind of together have a really significant impact on what I allow myself to do. Come March, I'm still not feeling great. And financially, I can't swing it. With my kids, I can't swing it. And I had just decided I wasn't good enough. That wasn't worth it. And I just kind of ghosted the team. And I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and she's like, why aren't you doing this? Because she had noticed a change in my mood. Wasn't as motivated about life. And then a couple things came together and shifted everything. With the help of a friend who's also a coach, leadership, life coach, kind of coach, got to the realization that I needed to give myself the chance and that I needed to, put in my all. And that was a real turning point for me. And I said, hey, can I still try out even though I've ghosted you guys? And they said, yep, there's nothing that you've done that has made it so you don't qualify to try out. Anyone can come try out. And so I'm like, I'm not going to make it, but I'm going to put in my all. And I'm going to show up, and I'm going to show people that training has made a difference. And then I also was working on really trying to increase my soccer IQ, so I understood a little bit more. And I gave it my all. I felt really strong. I was convinced I wasn't going to make the team, but I was going to do something I'd never done before, which was stay committed and focused regardless of the no.
So did she make the roster? We'll reveal that after another word from our sponsor for this episode, Cedars-Sinai's Limb Reconstruction Program. The Cedars-Sinai's Limb Reconstruction Program offers a multidisciplinary care team including psychologists, nerve management, including targeted muscle reinnervation, and the latest advances in reconstruction, including osseointegration. Cedars-Sinai's team helps patients regain strength, agility, and confidence with personalized plans to improve mobility and manage pain. Learn more at cedarssinai.org. Well, give yourself a gold star if you guessed that Alexandra did make the roster. But she felt different about it this time. She trusted her selection in a way she didn't last year when she was pressed into service as a last-moment emergency fill-in. This year, she felt like she'd proved her worth in open competition against a full complement of contenders. She felt like she'd earned it. That weakened the sense of exclusion from athletics that she's carried with her since childhood, and it helped her view herself as a worthy peer to her teammate.
We broke through some of the boundaries that all of us have, that hard shell that so many of us have towards each other and on the field. And I think, a lot of us are survivors, so we don't want to let people in. We don't want to tell people that we're hurting or that we're scared or anything else. And I think some of those boundaries came down and I went, oh, they're actually a lot more like me than I thought. We face similar struggles. We have faced things that have put our bodies in threat, and we have managed to get through it. And that, I think that's part of what changed for me.
It's only been a little over a year since Alexandra learned that amputee soccer was a thing, and only 11 months since she actually played it for the first time. She'll be the first to admit that she's still got a lot to learn. But the idea that she can learn it is no longer a joke to her. For someone who, as a little girl, just wanted to be picked when her friends were choosing up sides on the playground, that's a pretty profound step forward.
I think the athlete was always there. I just really never had a chance to showcase that. And now I'm on a level playing field with others who are just like me. And, I have a real chance to put in the work and be what I can be. I'm more physically fit than I probably have ever been in my life. And it's only going to get better. So that's super exciting. And that's a win regardless of how we perform. The other piece that I think soccer has given me, kind of the clarity of, is just the idea of how to stay more physically fit and how to take care of my body in ways that I would not have put as much effort into if it wasn't for soccer.
Alexandra may be finally starting to embrace her identity as a soccer player, but she still hasn't shed her ambivalence about athletics, and maybe she never will. At age 41, she isn't young for a competitive soccer player. She recognizes this might be her first and last chance to play in a World Cup tournament. But she also considers this improbable adventure to be part of a broader journey, something that'll continue to reward her long after she hangs up her forearm crutches.
I want to be an athlete, but then when it comes to actually producing the results that I want, I fall short. My ball work falls short. I think my speed on the field, I am fast, and that feels good, but that doesn't mean anything. If you can get to the ball, but then you can't do anything with it, it doesn't mean anything. But I'm hard on myself. I want to be so much better than I am. For me, this is a mental game as much as it is a physical game. And the physical part, that's the easy part. One of the pieces of feedback that I got is you've got to let stuff go and you've got to be able to move on. I want to be able to stay positive regardless of what the outcomes are. I want to learn how to just keep going. If we're down in a game, I want to be up in my head. If I can get to the place where I can move on more easily, then I have won. I have won things that can't be won on a soccer field.
Well, Elena Alexandra and her teammates are less than 90 days away from the inaugural Women's Amputee World Cup. If you want to help Team USA cover their travel expenses, make a donation at usampsoccer.org. Meanwhile, the U.S. men's amputee soccer team will be competing in just a few weeks in the Gold Cup down in Honduras. They too would be grateful for your financial support. Once again, usampsoccer.org. One more item on a crowded fall calendar. The second annual U.S. Amputee Soccer Cup will be held in Boston this October. Our next episode of Amputee Soccer Rising will focus on all the preparations taking place for that event. Thanks one last time to our sponsor, Cedars-Sinai's Limb Reconstruction Program, offering the latest advances in limb reconstruction, including osseointegration. Learn more at cedarsinai.org. You've been listening to Amputee Soccer Rising, a co-production of the American Amputee Soccer Association and Amplitude Magazine.